Hello friends, welcome back in our second module of economics. My name is Ninad Pandit. I am the faculty at Savarkar IAS Study Circle. In our first session, we discussed about the index of economics and we started with our first chapter, that is Introduction to Economics. In that Introduction to Economics, we covered our first topic, that is how economics evolved as a separate subject, and later on we shifted to the second topic, which is evolution of money. In evolution of money, we discussed three phases of money, that is first is barter system, later on coinage, and then paper currency. Out of these three, we discussed first two, that is barter system and coinage, and we are going to discuss today, that is a paper currency and types of money, and how various currencies, various world currencies are related with dollar. We'll start our today's lecture with paper currency. You might be thinking, when paper currency evolved, paper actually don't have any value like coins, or in the barter system valuable commodities having the value, but paper actually does not have any practical value in economics. So why we adopted or how we adopted this paper currency? Actually, if you remember the last lecture in which we discussed double coincidence of want, which is one of the characteristic of barter system. Students who have not seen the previous session, I request them to refer previous session instead of the current one, because it will be helpful for understanding the current session. Okay, so as we were speaking about double coincidence of want, when paper currency evolved, medium of exchange was done by paper currency. Alright, and I also told you about one of the theory of Aristotle, in which he stated, if market exchange is in the form of barter system, people try to satisfy their natural needs. You might be remembering, we discussed this theory, right? So when paper currency evolved, it formed or it is recorded for the first time in China during 960 AD. Then Marco Polo, you might have heard this name many times in history because he was a traveler and he gave various historical evidence which are helpful for us today to understand the contemporary world. Okay. So Marco Polo, when traveled to China, he understood about this paper currency and he gave this idea in Europe, where they also implemented the same type of paper currency. After the idea of paper currency in 960 AD, still many countries have not adopted this form of currency till 1600 or 1700 AD, because it was not reliable source. They were not understanding how paper currency will work, how we can assign value to that currency. So we were still using the coinage system around 1600 to 1700 AD. But later on, US Treasury Secretary Salmon Chase formed in 1862, they created $5, $10 and $20 notes. They printed these notes during 1862. And what they did, they assigned value of this dollar with respect to gold. During 1900, they came out with Gold Standardization Act or Gold Standard Act, in which they assigned value of dollar to gold. This is the first step towards evolution of paper currency, or to the understanding how paper currency will work in future. And they decided value of gold to $20.67 is equal to 1 ounce. Now 1 ounce you can understand in grams, that is 28.38 grams. So 28.38 grams of gold is equal to $20.67 during 1862 to 1900 period. So if suppose, for your understanding, suppose US have 3 ounce of gold, then in market they must have the currency which is equated to somewhere around $60. Understanding $20 is 1 ounce, that's what they are stating. So 3 ounce if the gold US have, then in market currency must be $60. That's what the understanding, right? So they started working on this principle. Later on, Europe also adopted the same approach and they pegged their currency to gold. But during the phase of 1914 to 1919 World War I, US and Europe printed paper currency irrespective of their gold reserves, due to which these countries were the most affected ones due to Great Depression of 1928, which we are going to study in our upcoming sessions. After the first session, we are going to study the crisis related to money, in which we'll be discussing about the Great Depression and South Asian crisis, which gave a broader understanding to our concept about money. Alright, so due to 1919, this hyperinflation came in the place because more money was there in the market, irrespective of the gold reserves. So this hyperinflationary conditions, what US government did, they increased the value of gold. To tackle this situation, US government came out with an act known as Gold Reserve Act, in which they stated no private holding of gold must take place instead of or without a license. So it increased the value of gold. That is, $35 is equal to 1 ounce. Now, as the value of gold increased $35 1 ounce, which means more dollar is in the market. Getting the point? Or just understand it by a simple example. Suppose a gold reserve is stationary. Gold reserve is stationary. That is, suppose we have 100 ounce of gold. 100 ounce of gold and money in the market is $100. Right? So 1 ounce of gold will become $1. Clear? Now 100 ounce of gold and dollar in the market increases to, this is the first condition. Second condition, 100 ounce gold and $200 in the market. Now what will happen? Now 1 ounce will become $2. The same thing is happening. $20 for 1 ounce, $35 for 1 ounce, which means more dollars were in the market. To tackle this situation, they increased the value of gold. So this happened during the period of 1934. By that time, US created restrictions for gold holding because their gold reserves were diminishing by that time. So they came out with this act. By the end of 1945, the period in which World War II ended, US had highest amount of gold reserves. So US pegged their currency, or US pegged their dollars to gold, and other countries pegged their currencies to US dollar because it was easy way in the international market for trading. So US dollar became dominant in international market as they were having more gold reserves. But if you will understand, you might be having one more question, that why they are connecting their currencies to gold. Because gold was treated as the most valuable commodity by that time. But later on, or you can think in the current period, we don't have that value of gold as we used to have in the period of 1950s or 40s with respect to our paper currency. Currently, you can think in this manner that money is related with our resources. Okay, so as many as resources or as many as manufacturing units in current scenario are there in our nation will be relating with our money or our paper currency. So the final output is done by manufacturing unit. The final good is produced by manufacturing unit. This final good is related with the resources. So our money is related with the total resources what we have in our nation. So this Gold Standard Act does not become valid in the current scenario. Later on, Bretton Woods Conference is the very important step towards formalizing gold and currency, or relation of gold and currency. That is done in Bretton Woods Conference. Bretton Woods Conference, which took place in the period of 1945 after the end of World War II, in which all nations they agreed for relation of their currency to gold. As US had most of the gold reserves, so they related their currency to dollar. Now, after this scenario, many countries they started buying gold from US at that current value, that is $38 for 1 ounce, and people started buying gold reserves from US for $38. Now, as gold reserves will start, as this will happen, as countries will start buying gold from US, the US gold reserve will start diminishing, and they will start moving from their country to another country, right? So to understand this phase, suppose US had 100 ounce of gold in 1945, and suppose dollar in the market again $100. Okay, so 1 ounce will become $1. Okay, now what countries will start doing? Countries will start buying gold for $1 1 ounce from US. Then what will happen? US will get $1, but gold reserve will become minus 1 ounce, which means dollars will be more in the market as compared to gold reserves. Correct? So dollar value will start diminishing. So understand why I'm saying the dollar value will diminish, because now, as I told you, 100 ounce of gold, if country bought one ounce of gold, US will have 99 ounce of gold left, and dollar in the market will become $101. So when we'll divide 99 to 101, will give us 0.99 per ounce per dollar. This is 0.99 per dollar. Okay. So countries will start getting gold in a cheaper and cheaper price, because US gold reserve is diminishing, whereas they are having more and more money in their market. So US understood this problem, because they had 19.5 billion gold reserves by the time of 1960, which reduced down to 14.5 billion reserves during 1970 period. So Nixon, he decoupled gold from dollar. So when gold went into the free market, whereas it does not have any relationship with dollar, the value of gold rose to $124 per ounce. So countries won't be paying $124 because they don't have $124 with them, because the trade was not happening at that level, that countries' foreign reserve in dollar will be at 124, and they'll be spending $124 for a gold instead of buying some another entity. So other entities or other commodities started getting more and more value than gold. That's the reason why we went into the free market, and currently, as I told you at the last time, that current money or current paper currency is related completely with the resources or your final goods. By this, I hope you might have understood how paper currency evolved and how we gave value to paper currency in the initial stage. Let's move to next topic, that is value of dollar. You know, in the current scenario, $1 is equal to 70 rupees or 64 rupees, which fluctuates on day-to-day basis. How do we define this value? Well, $1 is equal to 64, $1 is equal to 70, $1 is equal to 75. How do we decide this value? To understand, let's take an example again. Suppose in India, we have $100 in our foreign reserves, and money in the circulation, which is most probably related to gold or resources what we have, or the manufacturing units what we have, or the technological units what we have. Based on that, the money in the market is 1000. Obviously our dollar value, the foreign reserve value is or foreign reserve capacity is less with respect to our money in the market. That's the reason why the value of dollar is more. So suppose we have 1000 rupees in the market, $100 as a foreign currency or foreign reserves with government. So when we divide 1000 to 100, we get 10 rupees. $1 will be equal to 10 rupees in Indian market. If we have 1000 rupees in the market, then Now this is the first scenario. Let's understand one more scenario where due to our exports or any other activity, our foreign reserve in dollar increased, which became $200. Now money in the circulation is still 1000 rupees. Alright, so now what will be the value of dollar? 1000 divided by 200 will give us 5 rupees, which means $1 is equal to 5 rupees. This means that value of rupees is appreciated, value of rupees is increased. Why? Because previously you have to pay 10 rupees to get $1. Now you are paying 5 rupees for $1, which means value of rupees in Indian market is increasing as we are having more and more foreign reserves. As we have more and more foreign reserve, what does it state? Which means that India is exporting more and more commodities. As India is exporting more and more commodities, which means they have more and more manufacturing units. They have more and more manufacturing units, which also means that they have a technological advancement. So these factors are related with the appreciation and depreciation of currency. Now this is the scenario of appreciation of currency. Now let's have a third example in which our dollar value is decreased. Now we have $100 over here, which decreased down to $50, and money in the market is 1000 rupees. Okay, now this dollar will be reduced due to various other factors such as import. If India is buying something from US, UK, Europe, any other nation, because dollar is the most accepted currency in international market for trade. So India is buying something, so they'll be paying in dollars. So we have $50 and currency in circulation will be 1000. So what will happen? 1000 divided by 50 will give you 20 rupees. Now $1 value became 20, which means the Indian currency value is devaluated. Alright. What is happening over here? Here value is getting appreciated. Here value is getting devaluated. So devaluation and appreciation of value is completely related with the foreign reserves what we have. Please remember this concept what we have studied just now, that is the value of dollar, because we'll be needing this concept in upcoming chapters. That is the crisis, various crises which happened in US or in the world. So we require this concept value of dollar because this is the root cause of all crises across the world. Okay, now the fourth and last topic of introduction session is the type of money. This concept is bit related with the Indian economics. As I told you in the introduction session or the first session of our economics, where I discussed index with you, I'll be dealing with Indian economics and world economics in that particular or the respective chapter. So in this introduction session, when we are discussing about money, let's discuss the type of money what we have in India, which is one of the quantitative, or from these terms we understand what type of money is there in the market. So there are total 5 types of money, that is M0, M1, M2, M3 and M4. Before this, let's understand one more term which is called as liquidity. Liquidity in economics means that suppose I have gold with me, will be more liquid part. Suppose if I have cash in my hand, will be the more liquid, which means that what amount of money or what type of money you have in your hand when you go in the market can be sold or can be used for getting any kind of stuff will have more liquidity. So for example, cash in your hand will be the more liquid form. Demand deposits or your saving account in your bank will be a next liquidity form or the next more liquid form. Then your gold reserves will move more ahead because to encash that gold, you have to go through a big procedure, right? So it will move in the later part of a liquidity. So that's what we call liquidity, where the part or the type of money what you have in your hand will be useful for you to buy any kind of stuff from the market. So that's what we call liquidity. Now first understand M0. M0 is also called as reserve money. What comes into M0 is that currency in circulation plus bankers deposit in RBI, Reserve Bank of India, bankers deposit which means if you have SBI Bank, Bank of Baroda or all other banks, all banks, they deposit some part of their money to RBI for the safer side. Alright, so whatever deposit they make, we'll be understanding this bankers deposit in our banking section separately. But for current understanding, just understand whatever amount bank is providing to RBI for their safety is called as bankers deposit in RBI, plus other deposits in RBI. If any other company or any other manufacturing unit or any private entity, if is doing some deposits in RBI, will also be counted as M0 or reserve money. Okay, then the next one is M1, which is also called as narrow money. In narrow money, what will come? Cash or currency in circulation plus demand deposits of bank. Now, demand deposit will be dealing separately again in banking sector, but for this current section's understanding, demand deposit means your saving account. If you have current account or your fixed deposit, you can't be taking out or you can't be withdrawing money that easily. As easily you can withdraw money from your demand account or your saving account. That's the reason it will be more liquid form, right, as compared to time deposits, because it will have less liquidity. You have to go through a long procedure to get that cash from bank, whereas demand deposit you can withdraw any point of time, right, because you can't be paying from your fixed deposit to a fixed deposit ATM card to petrol pump or to restaurants, but you can pay from your demand deposit ATM card to any place. That's the reason it have more liquidity. Then the third type is M2, which means M1 plus post office saving. M1, which means cash in circulation or currency in circulation plus demand deposits of bank, demand deposit which means the saving account, plus post office saving. Then the fourth one, M3, which is also called as broad money. In M3 we have M1 plus time deposits. Now time deposits, which means fixed deposits or recurring deposit what we have in banks, will be again dealing with this fixed deposit and recurring deposit, which are the part of time deposits in the banking sector. So M1, which means again currency in circulation plus demand deposit of bank and time deposits. Here the post office saving is not added. Now again last one, the fifth type, that is the money M4, in which we have M3 which means M1 and time deposit plus post office saving. Okay, so these are the 5 types of money. Now if I can tell you to formulate them on the liquidity pattern, I can tell M1, we can't be calculating M0 as liquidity part because it's a reserve money. So we can't be thinking about the liquidity of M0. So M1 is more liquid than M2, is more liquid than M3, is more liquid than M4. Why? Because M1, currency in your hand which have more value, you can easily buy any stuff with this money. M2 is lesser liquid than M1 but is more liquid than M3, and M3 is lesser liquid than M2 but is more liquid than M4, right? With this we have completed our first chapter of economics, that is Introduction to Economics, in which we covered how economics evolved as a separate subject, evolution of money, in which we discussed barter system, coinage and paper currency, then value of dollar, and later on type of monies. So in next chapter we will be discussing world crisis which are related with money. So stay tuned for the next session. Thank you very much.